The medbay lights flickered overhead, casting shadows across Mira Thorne's pale face as she pressed her back against the cold metal wall. Her left arm hung useless at her side, the sleeve of her jumpsuit dark with blood that had stopped flowing only because the emergency sealant had finally kicked in. 3 broken ribs screamed with every breath. The gash across her forehead had clotted, but the world still swam in and out of focus. None of it mattered. Skit and Rook clung to her like barnacles on a ship's hull, their small gray bodies trembling, their 6-fingered hands gripping her jumpsuit with a desperation that spoke of pure terror. The Velkari cubs were barely 2 cycles old, their large amber eyes wet with tears that rolled down their flat, cat-like faces. They chirped softly, the sound somewhere between a whimper and a purr, pressing their faces into her chest and sides. "It's okay," Mira whispered, and somehow managed to smile. The expression pulled at split skin on her lip, sent fresh pain lancing through her skull, but she held it. "We're okay now. We made it." Skit looked up at her, his whiskers quivering. "Mira friend hurt? Mira friend falling?" "No, buddy." She wanted to ruffle his head fur but couldn't lift her good arm without dislodging Rook, who had wrapped himself around her torso like a terrified octopus. "Not falling, just resting." The station's alarms had finally stopped wailing, replaced by the automated drone of damage reports. Through the viewport, she could see the twisted wreckage of the Carthex raider ship spinning away into the black, trailing atmosphere and debris. The attack had been sudden, brutal, and targeted. The raiders had wanted the Velkari cubs, 2 of the last survivors of a colony that had been wiped out by plague. Genetic diversity. Ransom potential. It didn't matter why. They'd come for the children, and they'd torn through the civilian transport like it was made of paper. Mira had been the only security officer on board. She remembered the moment she'd found Skit and Rook huddled in the ventilation shaft where their caretaker had hidden them before being killed. The cubs had been frozen with fear, unable to move, unable to speak. The raiders had been 3 corridors away, their heavy boots echoing through the ship, their translator implants barking orders in a dozen languages. She'd had a choice then. Take the escape pod alone. She could have made it. The raiders wouldn't have chased a single human when there were more valuable targets aboard. She'd have survived. Instead, she'd scooped up both cubs, felt their claws dig into her shoulders, and run. The next 10 minutes had been hell compressed into subjective eternity. A running firefight through corridors. The cubs screaming in her ears, taking a plasma bolt to the shoulder that had spun her around and nearly knocked her down. Feeling her ribs crack when she'd thrown herself and her charges through a closing bulkhead, landing hard on the other side. The sickening crunch when the raider captain had caught up to her and slammed her into a support beam, over and over, demanding she hand over the merchandise. She'd broken his jaw with her forehead. Then she'd limped to the weapons locker, sealed the cubs inside, and gone back out into that corridor alone. The raider captain was floating in space now, along with the rest of his crew. Mira had dragged herself back to the locker, entered the code with shaking fingers, and collapsed the moment the cubs had rushed into her arms. "Mira, friend strongest," Rook murmured into her chest, his voice muffled. "Fought the bad ones. Made them go away." "Someone had to," she said simply. The door to the medbay hissed open. Commander Velis, a Torthian with scales like polished obsidian, stepped inside. His translator crackled. "Thorne, medical team is 2 minutes out. You need to let the cubs go so they can stabilize you." "Can't," Mira said. And it was true. Every time she tried to shift her weight, tried to ease them away, both Skit and Rook clutched harder, their chirps rising in pitch, bordering on panic. They'd seen too much death today. Lost too much. She was the only solid thing left in their universe, and they were terrified that if they let go, she'd disappear too. Velis studied her for a long moment. His species was not known for sentiment. They were bureaucrats, administrators, creatures of logic and procedure, but something in his expression softened. "The medical report says you have internal bleeding. Possible spinal damage. You're running on adrenaline and stubbornness." "Mostly stubbornness," Mira agreed. Her smile widened, though it cost her. "I'm human. We're good at that. So I've observed. Velis knelt down, bringing his massive head level with the cubs. He spoke in their language, a series of soft clicks and hums. Skit's ears perked up, Rook's grip loosened, just slightly. What did you tell them? Mira asked. That humans don't break easily. That you've survived worse than this, because your species is too stubborn to know when to quit. He paused. And that the medical team will let them stay with you the entire time. Mira felt something warm bloom in her chest, pushing back against the cold shock settling into her limbs. Thank you. The medical team arrived in a flurry of motion and scanners. True to Velis's word, they worked around the cubs, letting Skit and Rook maintain their death grip on Mira while they injected nanite swarms, sealed her wounds, and stabilized her spine. The lead medic, a human woman named Chen, kept up a steady stream of reassurance to both Mira and the cubs. You're going to be fine, Chen said firmly, her eyes meeting Mira's. Fractured ribs, torn muscles, minor spinal bruising. Nothing we can't fix. You'll be back on duty in a week. Don't want duty, Mira murmured, feeling the painkillers finally starting to drag her under. Want sleep. Then sleep. Chen's hand rested briefly on Mira's shoulder. As consciousness began to slip away, Mira felt Skit's small hand pat her cheek gently. Mira friend is strong, like Hero from old stories. Not a hero, she whispered. Just someone who couldn't walk away. But even as the darkness closed in, she felt the cubs settle against her, their breathing syncing with hers, their fear finally beginning to ebb. In that moment, Mira Thorne understood something fundamental about her species. Humans didn't need to be the strongest, or the fastest, or the smartest. They just needed to be the ones who stayed, who held on when letting go would be easier, who smiled through the pain because someone small and scared needed to see that smile and believe everything would be okay. She tried to smile one more time. The cubs clutched to her like she might fall, and she didn't.